Well, howdy everyone, and welcome to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking on the video. This video of a newbie asks questions about Formula One. If you can't tell from our attire, this is the newbie right here, wearing his McLaren jersey. No, I'm the newbie, and I just kind of wanted to do this video because in the past few weeks, I, for the first time, watched the Drive to Survive Netflix docuseries on F1. Never thought it'd be something that I was interested in. And then after one episode, I was completely hooked on the series and then the sport itself. And so I just wanted to kind of interview my friend Andrew here and ask him questions about Formula One so I can get to know it better. And then maybe if you know nothing about Formula One, you'll get to learn something and then maybe be interested in it, because I'm now very excited to watch the actual season that's happening in just a few days. So Andrew, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing here at Woodlands Camp, where we both work, and how you got into Formula One in the first place.
For sure, yeah. First, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, yes.
So, yes, my name is Andrew. I currently am on the Woodlands Next program, where we basically help host and run things here at Woodlands during their off-season, or off-season to camp, but really a full-time season again for everything not with camp. So
yeah, there's not really an off season.
Yeah,
it's
there
just
really is no off season.
All sorts of work.
But yeah, so I've been here and it's been great being here. And now though, while I'm here, we're gonna be really focused on F1 because it does start next week.
Woo!
And now I have someone else to talk to it with, which is great. So this is awesome.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah. All right, we're gonna get right into. Oh wait, what got you into F1 in the first place?
My bad. So I would say I have a good friend back home. Shout out Brandon. And he got me into it a little bit. He talked to me about it. And then I started watching the first season of Drive to Survive. And then I stopped.
Wow. Plot twist.
Well, I got to the point where it's like, I understood the teams. I knew who they were. And I kind of got the concept. And then at that point, I was like, I'm just going to start watching the races. Nice. And it was during the season. So I was able to. And I will say the first season, I wasn't very I didn't watch every race, but I was still kind of picking up on it. And then been a year or two now where I've just been watching it completely. I guess 3 years really. Nice. And the past 2 years, I can definitely say I've been watching it completely. Most of the qualifying and races, sometimes I can't just because the time is really bad. Yeah. And I can't be watching it during church. So
good job.
Yeah. But keeping up with it this past year has been awesome as a McLaren fan because we won. And huge. So it's been a lot of fun with that.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for that. I just wanted to jump right into the questions here. What is your hottest F1 take?
This might get the crowd a little mad, but it has to be said. You can't deny it. Lance Stroll is the best current driver.
Can you imagine if you actually thought that? To give us some context for who Lance Stroll is, if
Lance
the audience
Stroll
doesn't know.
Is this very energetic, enthusiastic, comedic, hardworking driver who deserved to be there, no questions asked. No, he's a he's a driver for Aston Martin, and his dad really influenced his way there, and a lot of people think he should not be driving because he's a waste of a seat and it should be given to someone else. I agree. He is just so problematic on the track, and his interviews are horrible to watch because he's like, "How was today?" He's like, "Yeah, it was fine. Just wasn't our day." Can you tell me about that? I don't know. It's bad. It's like, what are you talking about?
He's not even interested in being there.
No, he looks like he doesn't want to be there, and it's like there's definitely people that do want to be there and could probably arguably put up a better effort than he does. Occasionally he'll pop up in the top a little bit, but most of the time he's not there anyway. So yeah, Lance Stroll, best current driver. Yeah, definitely not. So on my real hot take.
Oh, okay.
Real hot take. Last year, I think as a Lando fan, no bias at all. I think Max had some favoritism and some close calls with Lando. And I think the FIA really picked and chose how they decided things. And I think there's a few times that were very questionable as a Lando fan, but FIA never lie and they're always right. So
So the FIA, what is that? I actually have no idea. Like they're mentioned in the docuseries as like maybe like a governing organization, but what do they influence?
So F1, FIA, they are basically, I would say, thinking of it, if you're new to the sport, they're like the referees.
Oh, okay.
They like decide what's a foul, if you want to call it that, but really like a penalty. They can decide if you go off track how long your penalty is, whether it's 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or even extreme cases where you have to sit and stop in the pit lane.
Oh, okay.
So they're the ones that decide that. They decide ultimately if occasionally, I think this happened one time last year where, so do you know the wooden boards that are under the F1 car?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that's something we could talk about later too.
Exciting.
F1 boards are under a F1 car? What? Yes. So actually last year, I think Charles and Lewis, I forget who it was, but a few people, their wooden board was just carved away too much, and they finished like second and third, but then they got disqualified because of their board, which no one knew or cared about really. Yeah. And so they got like pushed down, and other people got second and third. So like they're the ones that decide that. They're the ones that decide the rules, have the final say on things, and a lot of the time, a lot of people don't agree with how they do things. I think even at the F1 Expo or whatever they had this past month, I forget what they called it, but like all the teams came out, showed their car. It was a pretty cool event. It was in England, and whenever FIA was brought up, the whole crowd started booing.
Oh,
so I think a lot of people can.
It's like Roger Goodell walking out for the NFL. Yeah. Okay, nice.
So FIA is just not everyone's favorite thing to be seen and heard of on race day, because the more they're involved, the more likely it's going to be something annoying. So.
Yeah, so that brings up a question for me. In 2021, a very controversial ending to the season, where Lewis Hamilton was winning the race, and then FIA made a call that basically, I would say, gave the victory to Max Verstappen.
Yeah. So,
what would you say? What do you think the call is? Is Lewis an 8-time world champion?
Yeah. So that is funny, because sometimes he'll go on a show or something, they say 8-time world champion or 7-time world champion, but when they say 8, he's like, you know, And then sometimes they say 3 or 4, depending on what year you're looking at for Max, and he's like, yeah, well, I just think that was very questionable. I mean, they let all the cars go ahead, so it's just them two. Yeah. And I think even you said this while working at a camp, sometimes you kind of like dictate how it is in a better way. And it's like, yeah, that can make sense for a camp. But when you're talking about F1, it's like, you can't do that. They let all the other cars go away so that no one was in their way, and they could have this final last lap of the last race, depending the whole championship. And it was just kind of like, it was a spectacle to watch. Lewis defended really well, but Max is very aggressive at that point, and he was able to secure his first win. Depending if you accept that or not, realistically though, it is a truth, so you kind of have to. And the FIA dictated that. So yeah.
Well, there you go. That's some FIA info for y'all there.
Yeah.
That wasn't even in my questions, but I was just interested in that. So
that's a good question. You definitely see it a lot, and I can't say I fully understand everything they do or everything they say or how they dictate things, but you kind of need to understand this a little bit of a basis, because if you don't, you're gonna be so confused when you see the FIA dictate something in a race and you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So. Nice. My next question that I had, you've kind of already answered this through what you've said and what you're wearing. Your favorite team?
What do you mean?
McLaren.
McLaren, yes.
And then who's your favorite driver? Is it someone on McLaren?
Yes. Okay. Lando Norris.
Nice.
Lando Norris, my number one guy.
Why Lando?
Well, so when I first started watching, he wasn't winning. He hadn't won a race last year. He won his first race in Miami, which I watched live.
Yeah, what was his nickname before that?
Lando Norris. And Lando no wins.
Oh, and, got him.
But now Lando now wins.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, so Lando no wins. Norris. He arguably could have won in Russia several years back, when they still raced in Russia. But he, if I remember correctly, he didn't switch to wets, and he was winning the race, and then his car slid out, and he could have won, but then he didn't at the very end. So that would have been years ago, though, where he would have secured his first one. But then he had been not great. Even McLaren, though, in the past, like a couple years ago, they weren't very great. They were at the back. And then he started getting closer, started getting some more podiums, and which was great. You know, it's crazy because like most drivers, typically there's a few drivers that typically land at the top and typically land at the bottom of each race. And occasionally some people jump and you're like, whoa, why is Haas like in, you know, 4th place right now or something? And it's crazy. It makes it fun. But when you see a driver who doesn't really podium a lot, you're really excited.
Yeah.
And then they finally start winning, then a podium isn't enough. So it's like this weird thing of like, oh, he's on a podium, yeah. And then he wins one race and then he just podiums again. Dang it, why isn't he winning?
Yeah.
It's crazy how used to a podium you can get and how quickly you can. Because you're like, man, back in the day, I would love for a podium for any driver. And then now like he does, you're like, he should have won. And yeah, Lando, no wins, no more. He did very well this past year and he won quite a bit, even gave some up for his teammate Oscar. So kind, not dictated by the team at all.
Yeah.
But and that was even controversial because it was like, why did we give up a few points? Because there was a talk for a little bit last year where Lando and Max, the top two in the running for the championship, they were getting close on points, close-ish, and they're like, Lando could have used those points. Ultimately, he didn't. It ended up not being as close as people thought, and Max won the championship. But that inter-team rivalry between the two drivers can be very dramatic and controversial at times, and sometimes really break a team apart. But I think McLaren has been handling it well, and I think they seem to be continuing to. Oscar is a great driver, which is kind of like when you have two really good drivers, it can be really hard to say you have to give up your spot. You're a number one driver. No, you're a number one driver, and that can be really crazy, which I am kind of interested in. I think a lot of teams, you can definitely have the number one and number two, and that's clear. But like Max and Red Bull, no question who the number one driver is, who the priority is. And that's good. Honestly, as a team, knowing who you're going to prioritize can really help you because then there's no question. Things don't get controversial in the team and you know where everyone stands. But now with like Ferrari, I'm really curious to see how they handle Charles and Lewis, because like Charles is their golden boy. He's the promised one. Like he's a Monegasque. Like he is the heart of every true Ferrari fan roots for Charles. But now you have Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. Like how do you say, actually, Lewis, we're not going to do what you want? Like how do you say that? And a lot of people are saying Ferrari's a team to beat. And I could agree with you, but I think it could be very they could have some problems maybe if they don't handle things well. So we shall see about that.
A lot of intrigue there.
Yeah.
No, I love that point you made about like consistent wins and consistent podiums. And I think that's one of my favorite things about the documentary is that you'll have an episode focused on like the top team. They're like, oh man, we got 3rd place today. And they're like, it's like everyone's so sad and bummed. And then they'll go to one of the lower teams like, 7th place. They're just amped out of their minds. Yeah. It cracks me up.
Well, it's crazy because when you look at the end of the year and you see what points they have, only the top 10 get points. Yeah. So if you don't place in the top 10, you don't get points. I feel like a drive survive point. When it's raining, it's wet. Anyway, but when a team is able to crack that top 10 and get 1 point, that could be the change of thousands and thousands of dollars for their team. So it really is a big deal, but it is crazy when like a team roots for, we got 2 points today. And then they're like, we only got 22. Man, this is really going to hurt us in the long haul. But
that cracks me up.
It is crazy. And typically it seems like this top team stay at the top, bottom team stay at the bottom. But when they change, that's when it gets really exciting. Yeah. And as a McLaren fan, being able to see that happen was great.
Kind of nice. So, Lando, your current favorite driver.
Yes.
Who would you say is the greatest F1 driver of all time?
There are...
What are the schools of thought?
Schools of thought, there's a lot. And honestly, I can't say everything is going to be exactly 100% what I'm about to say, because I'm still learning the sport. Like,
you're a newer fan.
I'm still a newer fan. Yeah. I'm still trying to, there's a few docuseries I want to watch on Senna and all these different drivers just because I just want to know. And so there's still like a, asterisk there because I can't fully say I know who the best driver is.
Is there like
if I did,
a Jordan LeBron debate, or is there multiple? Is there more than two?
I would say there's multiple.
Okay.
Most of the time, Senna gets brought up. I would say Lewis Hamilton. I mean, he's won the most, and 7 or 8 time world champion, depending on how you count it. I would say Max. He is the current. I guess you will call him LeBron, but he still hasn't been in the league that long, or like as long as LeBron has.
Yeah.
But, Max is definitely, I would argue, the best right now, considering his stretches and the records that he has set with most wins in a row and stuff. And I would say Lewis, Max, Senna, and then I would, old school, I would say Jim Clark.
Okay.
Yeah. Mainly just because his name.
Same last name?
Same last name. No relation. I may have to check on that.
Unless.
But he actually was a pretty good driver back in the day, back when the cars did not look anything like how they do today.
Nice.
I think it was like the 50s or 60s whenever he was racing for F1. But he is argued one of the GOATs. So it's not just a random driver. He actually is argued as a pretty good driver, and a lot of people do have them in their top 5. But a lot of people don't because they argue that he was too long ago and the sport has changed too much.
Yeah.
But I think this is a sport that's ever changing, and arguably it's going to change even more next year. Well, not arguably, it's true.
Yeah, it definitely is changing next year.
Changing next year, which will be exciting, and we'll see what else happens in that regard. But I would say Lewis, Max, Senna, Jim Clark all come to mind, and then.
But you're number one.
Lando.
Really? Of all time? I'm like, wow. Is this
I would say Lewis.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I would say Lewis.
Do you think he secures number 8 this year? Or number 9?
Depending how you count. I mean, he wants to win in red. That'd be crazy. I kind of feel like it'd be like a Tom Brady.
Yeah, Tom Brady to the Bucks.
Patriots, he goes Mercedes, and then he goes to the Bucks, he goes to Ferrari.
Yeah.
Bucks and Ferrari, I wouldn't argue on the same level.
Yeah, probably not.
That regard. However, that does have that same kind of feel. So I think if he did, that'd be crazy. I think it'd be very entertaining. I think this year is going to be very entertaining. Like, Ferrari is going to be a team to beat. For McLaren seem to have a good car, good drivers. Max, you can never count him out, even if his car is looking questionable, which it kind of has been. That's what they're saying. But Max is a Max, and he can make a tractor work. So. Those are the 3 teams I would really have my eye on.
Let's see Max out there in a tractor just on that F1 circuit. That's probably something they do in Vegas, like, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you know why they call them tractors, right?
Oh, I thought you were just joking about an actual tractor.
So this is an F1 joke.
I'm learning more.
So when an F1 car isn't very good or they're very slow, the term that people always throw out is tractor.
Oh.
And it's not just because the tractor is slow, which it is.
Sure.
Like back in the day, Lamborghini and Ferrari, if I have that right, they made tractors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they argued who can make a better car.
Oh.
So like they were a tractor.
So this is how it all started.
Yeah, and then it's just like they used to make tractors, and then they were like, no, we can make a better sports car than you. So then they changed from tractors to a sports car. And then they made a sports car.
Wow.
Not every team. So like McLaren, I don't think made tractors. And like Aston Martin, they probably didn't. But I'm pretty sure it was Lamborghini and Ferrari, which is why I think Lamborghini has a bull.
Nice.
Because it fields. Fun facts.
Wow. We're learning some good history here on the episode.
So because of that, when a car is doing really poor, really slow, not up to speed, tractor.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Well, next question here. You talked a little bit about rule changes coming up next year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? What you know is going to be changing, and then along with that, if you could change one rule in F1, what would it be and why?
So with the changes that are coming next year, I will say I'm really excited in the sense that the cars are getting smaller. I think in races like Monaco, where the street circuits are enclosed and the road hasn't changed in hundreds of years because it's just an old city, but they still race there. I think it's great. I don't think they should stop because like that is a very pinnacle part of F1, that racetrack. However, it's getting to the point where these cars are so big, you can't even pass half the time, or if at all. And it's just not very good racing in the sense of the actual sport day. But the atmosphere is amazing. It's just the actual like passing of the cars is just really hard, and it's not the most fun to watch. So with the cars being smaller, that would help, I would think, in that regard, to be able to pass more and keeping those races more entertaining. So that should be cool to see. Also with that, all the teams are going to have to kind of restart a lot of their process and how they shape the car, form the car, and aerodynamics and all of that. So there could be a real change of pace, like what teams we see at the top, what teams we see at the bottom next year. So that could be very entertaining. I think next year could be crazy. I think this year is going to be crazy. So those are some cool changes that I'm looking forward to. A rule change that I'm glad they got rid of would be the fastest lap, because that last year was a little controversial with. So Red Bull, if you don't know, they have basically two teams: Red Bull, the Red Bull car, and then they have RB, Racing Bulls. Which
I think that's so dumb.
It's very like, why is this allowed?
Yeah.
But it is, and so they basically kind of have two teams, but they don't. They're separated. They're ruled by different managers. However, overall, they're still owned by Red Bull. Yeah. So there's definitely some things at play, and a lot of time RB drivers will go up to Red Bull, or Red Bull drivers will go down to RB depending on how things are going. Kind of what happened with Liam Lawson, how he got pulled. Yeah. A lot of people argued it should have been Yuki. I probably agree, but
poor Yuki.
Poor Yuki.
So overlooked
in more ways than one.
Short joke.
So last year the controversy is Lando, no bias at all. Lando had a last lap or a final or fastest lap, and he had another point added to his name basically because of that, and that would have helped him out in his run against Max in the championship. But Red Bull didn't want that, so then Daniel Ricciardo, who was racing for Racing Bulls at that point, man, I miss him. But he was racing for him, and they pulled him in. He got a change of tires, some fresh tires, and he was able to set a fastest lap at the very end of the race to take it away from Lando. So that was like an inner team where Red Bull like kind of influenced RB to take away Lando's point to help out Red Bull, and it really didn't help out Racing Bulls or Daniel really at all, because Daniel ended up being, taken out and he wasn't racing anymore. But that is like a little a controversy how he was able to take a point away, and with that being gone, maybe that controversy will go away too. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You mentioned Monaco in that answer. One of the courses in F1, which there's this upcoming season. How many races are there going to be?
24, 25?
24, and it's something like over like 21 different countries, I think, which is crazy. It's crazy how worldwide the sport is. But with all these different courses and all these different countries, do you have a favorite course, and why?
So I'm gonna have two answers for that. First of all, I think if you have watched race day for Formula One, the very beginning when they introduce the drivers, my favorite part is when they have like the globe and they like show you where you're at. Have you seen this yet?
No, I haven't watched a race yet.
Okay, yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite parts about the race. Well, it's not my favorite, but it's really cool.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the race, they show the whole globe.
Okay.
And they show every race and like what week you're on, but they show every track. So you get to see where they race the entire world. And it's really cool to visualize it in that sense.
Yeah.
But they'll take you week one, and we're not going to go very far, but like over the year, they kind of take like, oh, we've been here, here, here. And it shows you the whole world and all the races they're going to be.
That's cool.
Which are really cool to see it that way. It's also crazy to see how much they have to travel with these cars and everything else. It's insane. Whole nother topic. But I would say, what was your question again?
This is your favorite course.
Oh, my favorite course.
Yeah.
Well, I answered part one, but forgot part two. So my favorite course, I would say, I think it's hard for me to argue what my true favorite is. I think I prefer an actual circuit, not just a street circuit, where it's like the street circuits, most of the time they're so enclosed, I feel like they have no room to breathe, and they're not as maybe challenging.
Sure.
Because they're like, I have no space to risk the pass, but if I had more room, I might be willing to, so a race could be more interesting. with that being said, the two I have on here are both street circuits.
Nice.
But it's mainly because of what happened. So at Miami, street circuit, USA, but that's because that's where Lando won his first race.
Nice.
And so it's kind of like, I kind of really like it now.
Yeah.
Even though it is American, very Americanized for F1, and it's a street circuit, it's enclosed, but him winning there definitely made it a favorite. Watched it live, it was so cool. And then I would also say Singapore, which is also enclosed, when another favorite moment of mine as a Lando fan. There's no theme here, but that was a really cool race. Not last year, but I think it was the year before, whenever Carlos Sainz won. And they're like, Lando's getting close to you. And he's like, yeah, I know, it's on purpose. And so that Mercedes driver
George
Russell.
Nice.
George Russell.
George.
He was coming up on the pack, so it was Carlos Sainz as 1, Lando in 2, then George in 3rd. And George couldn't pass him because Lando was kind of in the way. And then Ferrari is like, Carlos, you're slowing down. Why are you doing that? But it was so Lando could stay with Carlos and not give George a gap to pass.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because Carlos and Lando used to be teammates on McLaren. And they always said, like, what if it'd be so cool if we could be 1-2? Like, imagine. Like, there's a video of like Lando saying that. It's like, what if we could be 1-2 one day? Which it didn't happen as they're both McLarens, but it did happen with them being Ferrari and McLaren. So it was a really cool podium for them.
Yeah, it's fun.
That was pretty cool. So, but that was also when I was also rooting for podiums, not just wins.
There you go.
Like, even a podium felt nice.
Now you're just pure wins.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice. I would say those are pretty cool races because of what happened.
Yeah, that's super cool. I was interested, you said in that answer that the Miami race is very Americanized. We are both Americans. Yeah. So I'm wondering how you feel. I know there's a bunch of different like opinions on the races that happen in America and like the US expansion. What's your opinion on like the 3 races in the US and the US expansion? So
I would say, I would have to say Drive to Survive has had a huge impact on the American market when it comes to F1.
Look at us.
I mean, I can't argue against it. Yeah. Also, I can't be too mad at it because it did get us here, so it's great. Yeah. But with that comes a lot of newer fans, which aren't a bad thing. I don't think F1 can say, oh no, new fans. However, for the fans that have been watching it their whole life, it's been a part of their culture. Literally, like Ferrari, it is part of their culture. They live, breathe, die cars. And so Americans are coming into it a little, I guess, late to the game, and sometimes we don't fully get it. And I think that can be like a kind of a prejudice or pride thing. Like, oh, you don't fully get what you're talking about or rooting for, but yet here you have 3 races now, which is crazy as a country, whereas most countries don't have any, and if they do, it's maybe 1. Yeah. And so it's like, why does America get 3? To be fair, America is huge, and Miami and Las Vegas are very far away. It's practically several countries apart if you consider like Europe or something. That's true. So it's kind of like it's the same country, but we're so far away. We're farther away than some of your races in different countries. With that, it's like, well, why are Americans getting all this favoritism? So I guess to further answer this question, my favorite American circuit would be COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Texas. Nice. It's not a circuit track, which goes with what I've been saying. And it's really cool. There's a lot of good races that have been there. But Las Vegas and Miami, they're like so Americanized. Like COTA, it's American, but you don't feel it too much. If anything, they all wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots. Yeehaw. Sure, America, that's fun. But then Las Vegas and Miami, it's like they get greeted with the Dolphin NFL cheerleaders, and like they get the, what's your name? It's Sergio Perez, and the guy tries to hype him up. I just saw that clip for the first time today, where
Buffer like announces him like UFC style, and then Perez is like, and then he just walks away. I was dying. Yeah.
It's just like our culture doesn't properly mix sometimes with this, and it's like a culture shock for the drivers themselves. And it's just like, it's like a little too American in the sense where it's just like, what are we doing? And it can be a little hard to watch sometimes. But at the same time, I can't be too mad because more races in America is pretty cool. And but Las Vegas and Miami are two of the most expensive races to go to. So even though they're closer, it's even so hard to get there.
Yeah.
But in Las Vegas, it's cool. I mean, they get to race down the strip, which is sick. But I know a lot of people in Las Vegas get mad because they're like, we had to not drive on that road because they had to tear it up and repave it so they could handle a race in F1. And they're like, this is so annoying. Like, we don't want this. And now even F1 put a new center there, headquarters there for F1. So like they did that. And they're like, we don't want F1, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, you live in the entertainment capital of the world. Yeah. F1's entertainment. You shouldn't be too mad when entertainment comes there. And it's kind of like, yeah. But seeing them, like a few days leading up to that race, it is cool because like they'll have them go down the strip just like doing donuts and stuff. And it's pretty cool. But yeah, I would have to say that. No, yeah,
that's good stuff. Here's a question for you. This is going to be a pretty like heavy hitting question. Oh, okay. So I hope you're fully prepared here. Do you think you, Andrew Clark, could beat Max Verstappen in a game of pickleball? Maybe you thought I was going to say in a race, but no, pickleball.
I mean, if it were going F1, it'd be a tough battle. But
yeah.
Pickleball, I think is no question. It would be Max.
Wow, no self-confidence over here.
I'm not very good at pickleball. I play and like I have my moments, but I still have to be reminded of how to keep score.
Nice. So, not an experienced pickleball player.
So like I mess around with it, but I cannot say I am that comfortable with it. And the amount of times I've seen him on Drive to Survive play pickleball, I would think he would beat me. So
I thought that was so funny in the docuseries. It was always like cut into their free time. I don't know if it's just when they picked to film them in their free time, but every time it was pickleball. I was like, what? These people are just like obsessed with pickleball outside of racing. Oh.
And it's also most of the time they're playing with their enemy.
Yeah.
It's like these guys hate each other on track. Here they are playing pickleball.
Yeah, they're like, chilling. They're having a great time. But they're enemies.
Yeah.
That's
I saw more videos about how Drive to Survive messed that up this year too. Like whenever Max, after Lando won Miami, it was like Max cannot take defeat, like and all that stuff. They used clips from a different race.
Oh my
whenever
goodness.
He's mad.
I didn't even know that.
Exactly. Yeah, they use like different clips of different races to like portray a narrative. When it's like then it showed in the show Max like mad like why did that happen, and Lando's like cheering, and then it shows a clip of like what really happened, and he's like, Lando won, and like he sprayed him with champagne. It's like, good job, man. And it's like, what the heck? Like Drive to Survive is just blatantly lying about drama and Max and Lando hating each other when they're like decent friends who play pickleball.
Exactly.
So it's like, how mad can they really be at each other?
No, that's good.
It's funny.
Nice. Pickleball. What a time.
Pickleball, yeah.
All right. Looking forward to this upcoming season.
Yes.
What team do you think is going to be the biggest surprise of the season?
Biggest surprise. I would say Williams.
Oh, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
For those watching, I've decided that my favorite team going forward as a new F1 fan is going to be Williams Racing. So please expound upon this answer here.
So Williams Racing, if you don't know, they're one of the more prestigious and long-lasting teams in F1. Recently, though, they're a team that have just all their victories and good stuff has been in the past, and they haven't really done anything fruitful the past few years.
Yeah, they've been trash.
To put it blatantly. They've been trash. But also last year they had Logan Sargent. Man. The best driver ever. No, but also, if you don't know, Logan Sargent is an American, and he was the only American on the grid for Formula 1.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Driver. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so, and how can you not tell he's American with a name like Sargent?
Yeah.
And like, every time he would do anything, score a point, very rare, wreck, or anything like that, everyone would make an edit with like the eagle screech, like, like America.
That's funny.
But that was the most you could get excited for him because sadly he was not very good and they got rid of him. But that left an open seat for Carlos Sainz, who
Dude,
he's what a guy.
that's correct. I saw that episode in the docuseries and my mind was blown. And of course they hyped it up big time. I was like, oh, these three teams. Like he's choosing between these three, which I'm sure he was like debating. But when he picked that and I had already decided that Williams was gonna be my team, I lost my mind. That was crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Him and Alex, that'd be a good duo.
Alex is my favorite driver as well. So it's great that he's on Williams because go Alex. I believe in you. You're gonna get a win.
Yeah, I hope so. I'd root for him. But most of the time he's just with the best of the rest in that midfield pack, and it's just really hard to get out. But Alex has his moments, and Carlos, he's a good driver. I'm pretty sure was the only one to win besides Max 2 years ago.
Oh yes,
he kept him from that like crazy streak. Max already had a crazy winning streak, but Carlos just like input himself there. Singapore, that's what I was talking about with Lando and George. Yeah, that's when he won. And but Carlos is a great driver. And seeing him on not Woodlands
here at Woodlands Camp,
we have an F1 team. Woodlands Racing. No, but Williams Racing. He being there with Alex, I'm excited for them, and I hope they have a great season.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great. I'm excited to watch them live and see what can happen. We're getting close to the end of our interview here. Andrew, you've been very informative. I've loved all your answers. This has been great. Let's see what I've got to close out here. We'll go with a more future-focused question again. Which driver, and I feel like we'll get the obvious one out of the way. You're going to probably say answer Lando. I'm going to ask who has the most potential to become a future world champion. We'll say bias, Lando aside. Who else do you think?
Bias, Lando aside. I would... not to be McLaren biased, but Oscar.
Nice.
He does have a lot of potential. It's honestly kind of scary because it's like he definitely acts like he's a number one driver, which he definitely is in his skill wise. So it's kind of like if Lando doesn't keep up, then they might say Oscar's our number one now and he's our priority. Yeah, which could be understandable, to be fair. Which is also like if he is going to demand more priority, he might have to leave and go somewhere else, and then that leaves McLaren in a tough spot. So I mean, Oscar, he is a very talented driver. This will be his third year. Yeah, I think it's his third year. So he's still fresh, but yet he already has a few wins now. One of them being gifted to him by Lando.
Nice. What a good guy.
Yeah, what a guy. But Oscar's great. I think he has potential. But McLaren aside, I would have to say Charles Leclerc.
Okay, yeah.
He is just so good at racing. He arguably, I would think most would concur with me when I say that Charles is the best one to race Max. Yeah. And Max is the guy to beat a lot of the time. And I think he's the one that dances with him the best. Is able to, I think Lando has had some trouble clearly last year getting past Max. Max just knows how to push the limits, and he does it in a way that a lot of people get mad about, but he knows the limits and he plays right to that line. Yeah. And Lando's having a hard time with that. However, Charles seems to have a better grasp on things when it comes to racing Max, and his race pace and then his just battling skills are just very good. And him with Ferrari, they just seem to be right there. They just keep on like shooting themselves in the foot sometimes. So Charles, I think, has great potential to be a driver champion one day. So
yeah. I agree with that. Well, it'll be interesting to see. And we mentioned this earlier, but him and Lewis together and how that dynamic will work, and if priority is given to Lewis. Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Drive to Survive is going to love it.
Yeah, they definitely are. And they're somehow going to bring Daniel Ricciardo back. He's going to get on a team somewhere.
Dude, it'd be great if he was like a commentator.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I love it. They brought back the former principal of Williams to be a commentator on the show, and she's done really well. So I would love that they did that with Daniel or something.
Yeah,
along those lines.
Just him being back would be great.
He's so entertaining. Yeah. No, that's great. I have a fantasy question here. Okay, not fantasy as in the book genre, which we also both love. We might both be writing fantasy books.
What?
Kind of crazy. Self-plug. But if you, more of the fantasy sports world, if you could create your dream pairing of drivers, of the current drivers today, actually, we'll throw in any past driver, current drivers onto one team, who would be your 1 and 2?
I'm gonna say, like how I said earlier, I'm not the most familiar with all the past drivers.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna avoid that part of the question.
Okay, we're just gonna go with current drivers then.
Just because I think I would just be throwing out names like, yeah, Senna, obviously.
Yeah.
But
He's good.
yeah, he's so good. But I would just go based off current drivers who I know more about and I've been watching more lately, and that's who I've been keeping up with. I would say the hard thing is that when you put a pair together, you have to have your main driver. You have to have a number one.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to have a number one when both of them are both basically number one drivers. And that dynamic can really be bad because, like, we've seen in the past with a Mercedes, with Hamilton and the other one, not Bottas, but
the guy that threw his hat.
Nico Rosberg.
Yeah.
Dude, like they're both competing to be the number one driver, and the amount of times they had turmoil and crashed into each other, it's just like asking for a disaster to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Rosberg, was a great driver, but him and Lewis just both couldn't be the number one driver at the same time. So if you could get rid of that controversy or like inter team rivalry, which you can't, I would say, no bias at all again, Max and Lando. They're just both very good, and being on the same team working together would be amazing to see.
Yeah.
I think Charles is up there too. They're kind of getting that right now. Ferrari is with Lewis and Charles, so we'll get to see firsthand what happens when you do have two first drivers on a team. But I would say, honestly, I would welcome back Carlos to McLaren. Him and Lando back in the day were great, but the car wasn't. But now that the car is, it'd be great to see them racing together again, because they did work together pretty well and were good teammates. So, and a better car now with a better team.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to see them together too. But yeah,
that's cool. That's good. All right, last two questions here.
All right.
Is there a conspiracy theory, F1 conspiracy theory, that you secretly believe, or you're like, yeah, that's definitely true?
I would say how the FIA fixed the last lap.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is so obvious.
Max and Lewis. I don't know how controversial that really is.
Yeah.
But it just seems to be that was just a huge, huge influence by FIA and F1 in general, big conspiracy. And it's just a very controversial point because of that. So I would say that one, just to be the most forward one on my mind.
All right. Final one here. We'll close this thing off. Your prediction, who is winning the championship this year? Driver and team.
Driver and team.
Yep. So is the drivers' championship and then the constructors' championship?
Yeah. Okay. So if we want to explain that real quick. So in every season of F1, there are two championships for the same year. One of the championships is a team championship, whatever team scores the most points. And then the other one is a driver's championship, whichever driver scores the most points. Most of the time, it seems like whoever wins the team also wins the drivers, or like the best driver also wins the team. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Like last year, Max Verstappen won the driver, but Checo Perez was not scoring enough points for Red Bull, so they did not win the team one. McLaren did, because Lando and Oscar did very well. So sometimes they don't match up. So there's two championships in one season. For this season, I would say, and I have something to say after this too if we want to do it.
Okay, excited to hear it.
McLaren's number one. I know there's bias. I know.
But they did just win.
They did just win. They're still looking great. They've made massive improvements, so I've heard.
You personally know. You've been there and seen.
Me and Zach Brown were tight. But I would think they've been hitting it good, and I don't think they've stopped. I think they're still on the rise, and they seem to be still doing great. So if they can give a good car and Lando improves on his racing ability and keeping first position after the start of a race, it's whenever he gets pole and not just giving it up the first lap every time. That'd be great. So I would say McLaren number one. but I think the team to beat would be Ferrari. I think Red Bull is just kind of not hitting it enough. I think Max is still going to be Max, but I don't think Red Bull as a team is going to be great. Ferrari is going to be the team to beat. Mercedes, I think they're still going to be in the mix, but I just don't see them being as big a threat as Ferrari for McLaren.
Yeah. I mean, both Red Bull and Mercedes have rookie drivers this season, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That could be tough.
Could be tough. And George, he's a great driver. I expect him to probably win a race or two and be in the mix for sure. I just don't know how well Kimi, the new driver, is going to be for Mercedes. I think he'll be great. I hope, the best for him, but I just don't know how well he's going to handle up.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to swing it back to you to see who you think. And also, if we want, let's just say the order of the 10 teams. Like maybe we write it down.
Oh, okay.
And then we come back.
And see our prediction? Yeah, that'd be fun.
I think maybe drivers might be too long, but if we want to do team or if we want to do driver, that'd be a lot. Maybe let's do team. Let's just do team.
Yeah. I'll say my prediction, and I think I'm just going to go with who I'm rooting for. I'm going to be rooting for Ferrari to win it and for Lewis.
Oh, okay.
To get.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Sorry, McLaren.
No, I was just like Williams, but I guess.
Oh, I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Like, I'm also an Atlanta Falcons fan, and as much as I love them, I know they're never actually going to win the Super Bowl. Maybe in the distant future. No, I think Ferrari's going to win, and I really want Lewis to get his 8th/9th victory. And I think Charles is also really good. As we've talked about a lot, we'll see how they work together.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and let's give our order prediction. Okay, we have our predictions that we can look back on after the season's over. I'll go ahead and go first as the new F1 fan here. Like I said, I'm predicting Ferrari is going to get number 1, followed by McLaren. They'll get a close second place. I think it'll come down to the last few races. I think it'll be close. Really good. Red Bull, I think they're going to stay at 3rd. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got Max.
Yeah.
Be interesting. I mean, he basically got 3rd of them by himself last season anyway, so it doesn't really matter how the new guy does. This is probably my boldest prediction.
Okay.
I think Alpine is going to get 4th.
That's crazy. That's bold. That's bold.
That's probably not going to come true. But their guy that they brought back that used to be with the team, he just seems to have a lot of gravitas and weight, and I feel like he's got. Oh no, they're I can't remember his name. It's like an old guy.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
But I feel like he's going to influence the team to do really well, and I do like Pierre Gasly. Yeah, I think he's a good racer. I'm blanking on who their second driver is right now.
It's a new guy, Duan.
Oh yes,
he's a rookie.
Yeah, that's right. Although I did just see a short that they might already be replacing him with a different rookie guy.
Wait, really?
We'll see if that happens or not.
Oh, that's crazy.
Poor guy. Poor Jack, if that happens.
Yeah, Jack Dillon, yeah.
And then I think Mercedes is going to fall a little bit.
Wow, okay.
Just with losing Lewis, I think it's going to affect them. Having a super young guy in the car.
Yeah.
Just fall a little bit. I think they'll bounce back the season after. And then this is the pick for the home team, Williams. I'm saying they're going all the way to 6th place.
Wow.
And just securing that spot right there. And then followed by Sauber, Aston Martin, Haas, Racing Bulls is my closing out there. I would love for Haas to do good. I think I loved them on the documentary, especially when they had their former team principal. Mm-hmm. He's just so fun to watch.
Gunther?
Yeah, he was great.
He's great.
So entertaining.
Yeah, I hope he's I see him a lot this season with the interview process and stuff.
Yeah.
Walk the grid and all that.
But that's my top 10. Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Alpine, Mercedes, Williams, Sauber, Aston Martin, Haas, Racing Bulls.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
And then I'm guessing whenever we look back at this, it's going to be 1 point if you got it right.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. And then I don't know.
Yeah.
Just celebrate.
Yeah.
Whoever wins.
Yeah.
We'll play pickleball.
So for my number 1, McLaren.
Nice.
Yeah, sure, biased, but ultimately they just came off winning last year. I think they're still in stride. They've been cooking, and they have good drivers. I think they're going to even be better this year. So I think McLaren is my number 1. Number 2, I'm going to have Ferrari. So our top 2 are just flipped.
Yeah.
Ferrari, Charles and Lewis. I just think they're going to be really great. I think there could be some controversy, but I don't think I think they're both going to be handle it well if there is any. So ultimately, I think they're still going to do really well. I just don't know if they're going to be able to beat McLaren. So I would say number 2 for Ferrari. Number 3, we agree, Red Bull. I think, I was questioning having my number 4th pick raised one, but I just think Max is Max. And even if Liam Lawson doesn't live up to, the occasion, because of the Red Bull second seat driver curse that is very well known, I think Max is Max, and he's still going to secure a lot of points regardless. So I'm going to have number 3 be Red Bull. 4, I'm going to have Mercedes. I think George is a very talented driver. He's good, and he's going to get some wins, I think. So that's going to raise their stock. And Kimi, I think he could be a rookie who has what it takes. And I don't know if he's going to be a superstar rookie like Lewis Hamilton, but I think he's going to be pretty consistent, and I think he'll do better than what people think. So I think Mercedes number 4. Number 5, you're going to like this one. I'm going to have Williams.
Wow, you ranked him higher than me.
I did.
That's great.
I think, they did really well at testing. Yet again, they're the only team that wasn't sandbagging. So maybe that has influenced me way too much. I didn't even realize or accept the fact that they aren't sandbagging. And I knew it, but I just didn't let it sit with me.
Yeah.
But I just think Alex, has improved. And I think Carlos Sainz, he's just a really good driver. And I think he can get that tractor, if it is, really far into the top of the field and be the best of the rest. And I think that'd be really cool if Williams just jumped to 5.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Number 6, I'm going to have Alpine. I think the French have been cooking, and they ended the year.
They love to cook, those French.
Dude, they love to cook. And I think they still have been. So I'm going to say the Alpine team are going to continue to improve. Last year, they had, I think, a double podium toward the end of the season. And I think Pierre, sadly, Ocon's gone. SD bestie. I think Pierre, is still a very solid driver. He has his moments. He doesn't always go to the top, but he's never really in the bottom. He's right there in the middle. And he has some good stints. So I'm going to say Alpine number 6. Number 7, I'm going to have Aston Martin. I think, it is Lance Stroll. He's just not there. I just don't like him. He just can't drive. He's in so many wrecks, and I just don't think he's going to be better. And I don't know how well Aston Martin has cooked with their car. I think Adrian Newey needed another year to really get that car improved. But if he has any touches, they would probably have some very beneficial stuff. I just don't see it happening. And they do have a rookie this year with Fernando Alonso.
I was like, is Fernando gone? I was like, I didn't
that's his rookie season, actually. That's a pretty big joke in the F1 world, like it being his rookie season when it's been, 24 years?
I mean, what is it, like 45?
Yeah. So, one thing that's crazy to think about is he's been racing longer than some of them have been alive. So, he was in F1 for a couple years when some of them were born, who he's racing against, which is crazy. So, I think the rookie might be able to show some good stuff and give them a few points, but I just don't think it'll be enough. So they're going to be 7. 8, RB Racing Bulls. I just don't have a lot of hope for them. Yuki's great, but I just don't see a lot of potential.
No.
Haas, I think they'll score a couple points just to not be last, but I don't really see a lot of potential. And then Kick Sauber, I just don't have a lot of hope for them. I just think they're a sad team, and I think they're just going to try to make it to the end of the year before they get run by Audi, which I am excited for next year. But I think this year they're just going to try to finish and, not be great. So that's my 10.
Wow. Well, Andrew, thanks so much. I had a blast.
It was a pleasure.
I mean, you answered above and beyond anything that I thought. So that was great. Had a wonderful time. Hope you all had a great time watching. And maybe when we get into the season, we'll have to do a follow-up episode.
Yeah, so maybe. But
let us know in the comments if you think we should do this again.
Looking forward to this weekend when the first race is. So, huge hype season.
All right. See ya.